everyone, and welcome to a very, very special episode of Midweek Metagame. I'm Harry MTG, joined by one of my regular co-hosts, Gabriel Nassif.
Hey Harry, hey everyone.
And we're also joined by a very, very special guest, Toffel.
What?
Yeah. Today we have, I keep hyping up this episode, but it's very, very special because for those listening, we're actually recording live in the Cardmarket studio. For those who've listened for a long time, Cardmarket sponsors the podcast. They keep us here doing episodes for you every week. So if you don't know what Cardmarket is, it's a marketplace online to buy anything card game related. Deck boxes, sleeves, singles, you can sell on there. You really want to check out Cardmarket, anything Magic related. So what's other card games? Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Flesh and Blood. I could talk about Cardmarket all day, but I'm sure you want to hear us talk about the new organized play announcement, which is what we're going to be getting into this week. So, there's no one better to talk about it with than a Hall of Famer and a previous Pro Tour champion. So we will be getting into that, but like I said, I do want to shout out the fact that we are recording this live, and there'll be a video copy of this podcast this week on Cardmarket's YouTube channel. So go YouTube, look up Cardmarket, and if you, instead of listening to us, you want to watch us as well, it'll be on there with some really nice editing and a good audio quality. But before we get into things and before we talk about it, podcast brought to you by the Patrons as well. If you'd like to support the podcast, best place to do so is at patreon.com/midweekmetagame. No pressure to do so, but that's the best place to support us. And after all that, I'm excited. New organized play announcement. I guess we should kind of do a bit of debriefing for people who live under a rock. So would anyone like to take the spotlight and start explaining it?
Or maybe introduce Thoralf, our guest. Maybe not everyone knows who he is.
Oh, sorry, of course. My mistake. I'm too excited. Yeah, why don't you start off with...
I do that myself.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good.
Well, what would you like me to say?
No, it's fine. What do you know?
Let's talk about you.
Yeah,
What do you know?
Yeah, no, I am part of Rivals as of now, which we come in later, plays a tiny bit role in the next future. I won one of the Mythic Championships, which is now actually legacied, so it never will happen again. Now we have Pro Tours again.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I couldn't remember if you won one of the last Pro Tours or if it was already like these Mythic Championships.
No, one of the last Pro Tour was won by Alan Bogan.
Yeah.
And he's not very sad that he can't be the long-standing last Pro Tour anymore. I've been playing Magic since I was little, which so like 2000 Nemesis was like when I started.
Okay, when I was born.
Yeah. And I don't know. I never really took a break. I just played through all of those. So I've been through many generations of Magic.
Yeah.
I've in those movies where you have like in the background the pyramids and then the times change and water flows and stuff. This is what happens. I've seen it all.
Yeah. You play. You're kind of professional player, and you also have a Magic business, right?
Yes, we have Cardmarket on Cardmarket if you want to check it out and buy cards. Mods. I also write articles or wrote a lot of articles, coverage for Wizards and all this stuff. Like many hands.
Yeah.
That's something I find the most interesting when we get a guest on. It's really cool that basically your whole workspace is just Magic, right? Because if you're not making content, then you're sorting, I believe it's like sorting cards for Cardmarket?
No, everything that needs to be done, like getting the orders, ordering, collecting, making prizes, a lot of model stuff. It's wherever it burns. And right now, Magic is so popular, it burns everywhere.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. People, especially now with the organized play announcement, I would say even more, but in the last few years, people had a lot of time and coping with Magic, which is obviously very good, but people have been collecting.
Yeah, well, good for them, because the Pro Tour is back. I saw Sterling tweet people who lose, he was listing people, the W's and the losses, and it was losses, everyone who stopped buying cards 3 years ago,
Yeah.
And now we're going to need Pioneer cards, Modern cards, maybe Standard cards.
One of the really interesting developments is that the commons actually got way more expensive nowadays.
Yeah.
Because people didn't draft, so people don't open boosters a lot of volumes, and also with going to the set boosters and the special boosters, a lot of stores open way less normal boosters that have more commons.
Yeah.
So cards like Deadly Dispute Forever is €2.
Yeah, Expressive Iteration, €20. You're saying?
Sometimes you can get those. Yeah.
And did you? So for those of you who missed it, the first the Pro Tour is back. The first Pro Tour is going to be Pioneer. Did you rise up the price of Pioneer cards overnight? How does it work when there's an announcement like that? And
well, actually, I didn't have any time, so I didn't do that. I assume now people will look into the meta, like see what deck is good.
Yeah.
I assume there's also probably a lot of more exploring to do because right now I think Pioneer was only relevant in Magic Online.
Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. So not many people expertly dealt with the meta besides playing the challenges and the showcases and stuff. So we have like this typical thing that when a lot of pros or a lot of human beings in general attack one format, there's lots more evolving and more decks can be found, more styles get tuned. I would assume that a lot of cards that are very relevant in Pioneer or very relevant to my mind would now come like Jeskai Ascendancy, for example, and Sylvan Awakening, all that stuff, like which is a bit more specific to Pioneer, might have a huge spike in prices.
Maybe we should just, I'm guessing a lot of people who are listening kind of already know about the OP announcement and maybe know some of the details, but not everyone, and just refresh it. And maybe I'll go through exactly what they announced. So big headline was the Pro Tour is back. There's going to be tournaments called Pro Tours 3 times a year. The Pro Tour branding is back. And they have a pyramid, like kind of a 4-level pyramid. Bottom level, they're called Regional Championship Qualifiers. They're a bit like the old PTQs or maybe PPTQs. They qualify you to the Regional Championship, which qualifies you to the Pro Tour, which qualifies you to Worlds. Mm-hmm. So Regional Championship Qualifier, that's going to be mostly at your local stores. I'm not sure what the structure is going to look like, but whatever, tournament happens at local stores, I wouldn't really know. But yeah, and those feed into regional championships. There's 11 regions, and each region gets their regional championship, 1 per Pro Tour. So there's basically 3 seasons in the year, right? 1 per Pro Tour. And for each Pro Tour, there's 1 regional championship in each of the 11 regions. So for Europe, for instance, I believe the first one will be in Sofia at the end of the year. The qualifier season starts early July, and each region gets a different number of slots depending on how big they are Magic-wise, obviously not just population-wise. Canada, for instance, I think gets as many slots as Europe does, or more or less, despite the fact they're like literally 20, Europe is 20 times the population of Canada, but apparently something I didn't know is that Canada's just as big, if not bigger, just with these, 20, 30 million people. Rambling's already happening. But yeah, so regional championship qualifiers feed into these regional championships. At the regional championship, to qualify for the Pro Tour, I believe you have to go 12-4 or better. So everyone who makes top 8s obviously qualifies for the Pro Tour. And on top of that, everyone who goes 12-4 better also qualifies for the Pro Tour. We don't know exactly what the prize structure is going to look like for these regional championships, but if you qualify for the Pro Tour, you'll probably win enough money to fly to a Pro Tour and get a hotel, because there's no tickets, no flights, no hotel money. They're assuming that if you did well at the regional championship, you can afford that. Pro Tour, once 3 times a year, they expect them to be around 300 players, counting all the qualifiers from the regional championship, plus people who are qualified from Worlds, etc., etc. The Pro Tours will be $500,000 prize pool, about 300 players. If you top 8 the Pro Tour, you qualify for Worlds. If you go 10-6 or better, you qualify for the next Pro Tour. And then something people really wanted was a way to be able to chain qualifications. Even if you don't do really well, if you do well enough, you can stay qualified on the Pro Tour. So they have adjusted match points, APM, which is
AMPs.
Yeah.
Adjusted match point, AMP. APM is something else. And the AMP are calculated the following way. Every match win you get after the third match win gives you AMP. So for instance, if you go 9-7, you get six extra wins after the first 3 wins. Times 3, that's 18 AMP. And let's say you go, so the example that we're giving, you go 10-6 to one Pro Tour, 9-7 to the next one. That's 21 plus 18 MP. That's the 39 you need, and they qualify you for the next 2 PT. Because how does it work? You look at your last 3. You look at the last 3 Pro Tours, and if in these last 3 Pro Tours you had at least 39 AMP, you're qualified for the next one. So that's how you can stay on the quote-unquote train. Obviously, it's still pretty hard. You need to make it to at least 2 Pro Tours, in a gap of 3 Pro Tours. So that's not easy in the first place. But if you get there, you could even imagine maybe you qualify for. You're really good, you qualify for every Pro Tour, but you scrub out at the Pro Tour, so you need if you go 7 wins and stuff. And it was pretty cool. They explained that the way they were using that system is that they didn't want someone who was 0-5 or at the Pro Tour to have to keep playing to chase those points. So, maybe people were wondering what the logic was, and that was the reason Huey gave.
Oh, that makes sense, because if you're 0-5, you're dead for day 2, but you could be like, I need to pay for my
and
AMPs.
it's not a feel good.
But then, no, but 0-5 doesn't help because you can't get over the 3 wins.
That's the point, so you can
once you're out, you can't even get those AMPs anymore.
Yeah, that's the point. That means that when you're 0-5, you can just drop.
Yeah, that's
and you
true.
don't have to keep playing to I need these points to maybe these points will be relevant at some point.
I like that.
And the reason why there are so many invitations on beforehand is because those AMPs don't grab yet. So I think America has 48 spots to qualify from the regionals. This is not something they're going to keep because the first Pro Tour doesn't have any previous invites from other Pro Tours except for Capenna. And also in the Pro Tour itself, if you play 9-7, you get qualified for the next one, I think, which was 9-6 from Capenna and 9-7 from the other Pro Tours. Mm-hmm. So if you go 9-7 in the first one, you go to the second, and then if you go 10-6, you have the roaming invite. So if you're doing some over reasonable results that are not out of the park good, you still have quite a decent chance to play a lot of them.
Yeah. Basically, they're giving a bit more invites for the first Pro Tour because they need to populate the Pro Tour, and after that, it'll be so you said 48 for the US, and then next time in the future it'll probably be 32.
Yeah.
Something along these lines.
I think there's a lot of confusion with qualification in terms of, status in the past and being a pro, for example, MPL or Rivals. I think that's probably a common question. What's happening to you guys in terms of your journey now? I guess Toffel, we'll start with you.
Yeah, we're basically not much different. Gab has the premium spot of being Hall of Famer, which gives a little bit extra. Mm-hmm. Not too much, but at least something, which is good, I feel like. There is a reason you have that title. But basically, the only thing that pros, ex-pros now, the people that started out with this, is they get to jump the first level.
Yeah.
And then we directly can play the regional events without playing in one of the game stores to get there.
But that's only the first year.
Yes, this is what happens now to us.
Yeah.
We don't know if there's anything coming within the next year, if anything relevant comes out of that. This is just the basic scheme that's right now. And once you qualify for one of those regional championships, you're exactly the same as any other person.
Yeah.
So there's no benefit, there's no bias, there's no somebody is directly qualified for the Pro Tour except for Hall of Famers.
So it's possible Thoralf next year will not play in any PTs.
Could happen.
And I'll play, it's possible I'll only play in one PT, but that's because of Hall of Fame. What they did is there's 3 PT a season, and one of these seasons we get to pick, okay, this is the one where I want to be directly qualified to regional championship and directly qualified to the Pro Tour. And I'm not allowed to try and play these qualifiers. And then, if I miss, boom, I cash in my invite. Because there's a good reason for that. And you saw, some Hall of Famers are man, that's not good enough. We are getting a third of what we used to. And other Hall of Famers are like, well, I think they probably overshot it originally. It was a bit too much and maybe not sustainable. And I feel like that's fair. So, there was a couple different opinions. I feel like it's fair. They said that they want Hall of Famers to have an overwhelming advantage to be able to reach the World Championship.
Okay.
They wanted to make it more equitable. And as a Hall of Famer, obviously, I'm worse off. And, I'm actually kind of nervous. I'm like, it's going to be tough. I was kind of, I never had to grind. I was qualified to every Pro Tours before. Then when they brought the Mythic Championships, I kind of, in some ways, lucked my way into it, but I didn't have high expectations. And now it's kind of like, before I was like, okay, I know I'm at every Pro Tour. And then when they brought the MPL and stuff, I was like, well, that seems really hard. I'd probably never, it'd be really hard to qualify, but at least I didn't have these expectations. And now it's like, well, it's kind of attainable, but it's also not going to be that easy unless I do really well in the first few ones.
Mm-hmm. Well, psychologically, you come from the top, so basically you can only lose.
Yeah.
But on the other side, it's people always complain there's like elitism, and like a separation, and I feel like this is pretty much gone now. Like you can play, depending on where you are, probably 3 to 10 of those store championship stuff. So there's quite a reasonable chance that if you're really trying and you're somewhat decent, that you're gonna have a good chance to make it to those regionals. And at that point, there's no difference. So everybody's the same.
Yeah. The only thing that's kind of confusing to me with the Hall of Famer you get one regional championship and one Pro Tour.
Yeah.
Your regional championship will not be the one that would qualify you to the Pro Tour that you go to, right?
I think it's the same.
No, I think it is.
It is? So what's the benefit for you going to the regional championship? Just money?
Yeah, just not having, if we want to play in these regional championships, we don't have to go through the grind of PDQs.
Okay, and then it's playing for that World's invite for first, right? Or second?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, makes sense.
So it's basically, they said, it would maybe be a little bit feel bad if we allow them to be qualified for a Pro Tour and then skip the cool event of the year before to meet their friends and stuff.
Yeah.
So they say, okay, you're going to also get that because we're so nice.
Yeah, what Huey said, his exact words, and it kind of describes not only the Hall of Fame thingy, but, overall, philosophy is that we want the system to feel as accessible as possible to everyone in terms of reaching the ultimate goal of the World Championship every year, and didn't want the competitive advantage gained from Hall of Fame to be too overwhelming. Kind of what
that was impressive. Reading one.
I already read it. It's trolled down still.
For those listening, we do have Twitch chat up, and we will take some questions or answers. From
people or as it goes, if we see like something, if any of us see something relevant, maybe we'll address it.
But apparently there are also some events in Europe that are not regional championships, which are like GP-like events.
Yeah.
Big gatherings. I think are not quite sure how they evolve with invitations.
Yeah.
But they're also something that people wanted as like a means to have like a magic vacation for big tournaments.
Yeah, that was a big thing, is the lack of quote-unquote GPs, but I feel like there's going to be GP-like events. Even the regional championship itself, it's not like a GP because it's not open to everyone. You have to qualify, but it'll probably have that GP atmosphere. They'll have the main event. I'm assuming there's going to be a bunch of side events and everything, and there's going to be last chance qualifiers for the regional championship at these big events, probably a 3-day weekend for Europe anyways. Yeah. So these are probably going to have a GP feel. They'll be the main event regional championship you have to qualify for, but they'll probably be like a big, maybe a big modern tournament, a big pioneer tournament, maybe have these, maybe have the championship start on Friday. And if you scrub out, maybe there's a main event that starts on Saturday. Who knows exactly what they're going to look like. And then another thing you were talking about is, I'm guessing each region is going to be a bit different, but in Europe, I think there's already free. So it's a bit confusing because the company is called Legacy.
Yeah.
That's organizing tournaments in Europe. In the US, it's DreamHack. In Canada, it's Face Games.
This is not the format.
Yeah, it's not the format, but basically that org has already free stop plans. They're called showdowns, I think.
Yep.
And they might feel a bit like GPs in the way that I'm guessing some of the maybe the main events in these events are going to feed into the regional championship, probably.
Yeah. I think the first one is Copenhagen.
Yeah.
That's going to be big, I feel. Because if people
I think
have
the first one is Bologna.
Bologna?
I think it's like Bologna, Copenhagen, Paris, and then I believe the first European regional championship will be in Sofia at the end of the year.
But those are the first actual big gathered events, right? I mean, Bologna is also quite crazy because Italy is not known for having like small attendance numbers on those things. But I would expect them to pretty much feel like a GP with big halls, many people, multiple events, side events, main events of some sort that pay out something like actual factual 2018 stuff.
Yeah, I think that was actually something that kind of confused people because when they announced it, it made it seem like there were 4 regional champions, and that's kind of what we're saying here. They're called LMSs, they're Legacy Magic Showdowns. You got 3 of them, and then the European regional championship that everyone should be concerned about is in Sofia, like you said, in November 2022. Yeah. And I think that's something that we actually debated a lot. And now it actually makes a lot of sense. So it's actually kind of very different to what we're used to, because I remember there being a GP every weekend, and now I believe that GPs are like every couple of months now?
Yeah. I mean, for Europe, it was kind of like this 2013 stuff where we had a GP about every month, I would say. And then they ramped up the numbers to have a GP every week somewhere in the world. So we kind of got up to like 2 to 3 weeks. But I think the numbers are quite reasonable in the pacing.
Yeah.
Also, it's like, it's the first, we're still like kind of in COVID, or COVID is quote unquote ending, and it's the first year. And if these events are really successful, there might be more next year. Yeah. Maybe one every month, maybe other orgs, and if they're just like kind of restarting, and I'm sure people are going to want to build on that, and there'll be like more and more Magic to be played for people who want to.
Yeah, I definitely think that I kind of prefer that structure, because you always have like FOMO, and if there's only like 3 GPs, I feel like it's way more manageable for someone like me who wants to go to a lot of things, rather than there being like one every week and you feel like you miss out. I feel like it gives people way more of an opportunity, as well as, I feel like there was actually GPs were starting to get a bit smaller, the main event specifically, and now I feel like if you have three a season, you're going to be having way bigger tournaments, and it's actually going to feel like a GP.
Yeah, I mean, also all the planning, if you ramp up to the full schedule with all the uncertainty, it's better to have like fewer events and then scale later to future when you see like there's actual something more secure. I mean, let's say in 3 months, right, there's a new variant and the mega COVID is like spreading, then they have to cancel 4 events, which is much better than 20. And the logistics of this are very harsh, that you have to pay like the venues in advance and all the planning, and people who book feel bad and all the stuff. So it's better to have like a very strict and solid system and then see, okay, that worked for a certain amount of time. Also, I assume now with like a new structure of organized play and with a new head and with maybe a team that also resembles that, they're going to have a different look at the numbers, different look at what are the data that they're gathering for all of this, and then rather react to it than overshoot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we have a question. July 15th Bologna tournament, is it open or do you have to qualify? And if so, how do you qualify? So I believe you don't have to qualify. I believe it's just an open event, kind of GP style event, except we're not sure what it qualifies for. As far as organized play and the Pro Tour goes and these regional championships goes, you've got your qualifiers at store level or on Magic Online and Arena that qualifies into the regional championship. You do well at the regional championship. You go to the Pro Tour, you do well at the Pro Tour, you go to Worlds. We actually didn't talk a ton about Worlds. Worlds going to be about 128 players, more or less, depending on, how many people tie for 32nd for MP. That's another question, but roughly 128. That's what they're aiming for. $1 million prize pool, going to be played in paper formats. TBD. The only formats we know about is Pioneer for the first regional championship and for the first Pro Tour, Pioneer and Draft. They're actually bringing back Limited. I'm not even sure we mentioned that yet. Yeah. It's going to be the kind of the old school structure of day 1, a draft and 5 rounds of constructed. Day 2, a draft and 5 rounds of constructed. 16 rounds cut to a top 8. So I'm sure a lot of people are really excited about Limited being back. The formats for the regional qualifier, or for the regional qualifiers to the regional championship, that's store is going to depend from store to store, but their options are standard, Pioneer, modern, and limited, which is usually probably sealed, cut to top 8 in draft.
Yep.
So no legacy, no vintage, no weird formats. That's
no historic.
That's they're like kind of the only guideline Wizards gave to the stores is it has to be one of these 4 formats.
But there's probably also some support from Arena if you like historic or alchemy. They're certainly gonna have some of those formats being important to qualifying also for the regional championship or even the Pro Tour directly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there even is support on Magic Online. They have announced that they're going to make an announcement, the digital play announcement, but they gave a little teaser, like Toff was saying, you can also qualify to Worlds from Magic Online, apparently.
Yeah. So the showcases, I think, directly qualify. We already know that. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a big open event on Magic Online, like they used to have it for the mocks, that there's like one big tournament where the first 1 or 2 get the slot for Worlds. I would be very surprised if Arena hands out a World invite. I would be very surprised if Arena doesn't hand out a PT invite. Just the logistics of Arena doesn't have anything that is top 2, like top 8 heavy, right?
I don't think they'll have an open Magic Online tournament that qualifies you for Worlds. I think it's just going to be these 6 slots you talked about, the kind of Mox champion. But I think they kind of said that you're going to be able to qualify for each level of tournament directly from Magic Online and maybe even from Arena. But I'm not sure how you would qualify someone directly to Worlds from Arena.
Like, that would be the worst of all possible sides, that the number 1 ranked ladder gets like
So you're definitely going to be able to qualify for the regional championship through Magic Online and Arena. You're definitely going to be able to qualify for the Pro Tour through Magic Online and Arena. You're definitely going to be able to qualify for Worlds through Magic Online, but I'm not too sure about Arena. But so there's going to be, kind of, honestly, everything they announced, it was kind of the upper, of what people could hope for, but it was in line with, what they said 2 years ago when they announced the end of MPL and Rivals. They said, we want a robust tournament system. We want, that was the kind of the big thing. Robust tournament system, more opportunities for more people to play and qualify, and I feel like that's kind of what they brought. Money-wise, it's maybe not. I didn't do the math. I'm assuming it's kind of in line with what we had, at the end of the 2 or 3 years ago before MPL and Rivals.
But minus all the benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there were a lot of currency handed out with platinum and gold and all those.
I didn't see anyone like tweet about the math of the prizes, so we don't know yet. It's also like the first year.
Yeah.
So we can hope that if things go well, maybe have a 4th season, a 4th Pro Tour. We used to have like 4 or 5 up to 6 Pro Tours, even maybe even. I think there was a year where there was 7 Pro Tours, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean, the best people can do is just attend. And the more people attend, the more reasonable
if
it
it's
is
successful,
for them
if people
to.
are having fun, if people like it, if Wizards feel like it's working for them too.
That's one thing that always confuses me, because I always wonder when pros tweet about how it's like, I can't live off Magic now or whatever. Like, as a pro player's perspective, how many pros do you think the system should be set up to support to make as their job? Like how many players would you say, okay, I think 150 good Magic players should be able to live off the Pro Tour? Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like I see a lot of people saying, oh, it's not good enough, yet I never really see, okay, I think the top 0.5% of people that attend a Pro Tour in a year should be able to live off. You know what I mean?
So I feel like given the money Wizards is willing to put into the system, I don't think it's actually a good idea to have, like, some amount of pros should be able to make a really good living, because then it means there's not going to be much left else for everyone else. And given that Magic has a lot of variance to it, it's not like a super, it's skill-based, but it's not as skill-based as, maybe, I don't know, Counter-Strike or Dota.
Yeah.
So I feel like the structure of just pro is not super well adapted. Obviously, if Wizards was willing to put up, double or triple the money, then you could, have that same money they're giving right now and have like an upper echelon. Sure, why not? But as long as Wizards doesn't want to put like way more money, I feel like it's actually better if Magic is seen, the Magic competitive scene is more something of like a semi-pro kind of thing where it's a decent income, semi-reliable, but not a ton. And on the side, you either do content or you have, maybe a real job or something,
What do you think, Toffel?
Yeah, back then when they had like all of those aspirations for esport, and even before like in the tournaments, their main goal was to have recognizable storylines, people they can follow, people that are. You got a lot of viewers now.
Yeah, I'm waving because Mingucci just rated us.
Yeah. So people have a lot of like, they wanted to push certain people, images and stuff, and then they harnessed the marketing out of this. So they could follow them like a Reed Duke GP, like you have like something that people can follow and get attached to. And apparently they don't, the numbers show they feel this is not very marketable. Magic doesn't fit it. There's no connection that it's worth it. So they're going away from individuals to actually the whole brand of the game.
That makes sense.
And then they can say, like, okay, we're marketing the tournaments instead of the players. And then once the tournaments are very successful, we can expand on the tournaments being better, but not on the players being worth playing. So Magic was always this thing that it was very hard to get into a spot where you can live out of it only from playing. I mean, some people were platinum every year because they were great or quite lucky, like that happens. But it was very mean in the sense that it sold you the dream a lot by never being, real, that it's actually reasonable to achieve. And a lot of people that followed the dream, obviously, but never quite got there because there's a lot of variance and, well, you're not as good as you think most of the time. And so...
Whoa, harsh. I'm right here.
But I would say it's like the study or something. 70 people think they're better than average.
Yeah, I think it's like over 90 actually.
Something like this, and obviously there's a lot of brain faults that keeps you from actually like doing what you should do.
No, I think it was a study where 90% of people thought they were in the top 50%.
Something like this, yeah. And it's
actually true everywhere,
Maybe you're your hero in your game store, and then you'd struggle for the next level because it's certainly different.
Stop discouraging everyone.
No, that's why they're listening to the podcast. That's the first step to getting better, right?
That's a good point, because to me, I find it really funny because out of all the esports, I find Magic to be the only one where people complain that they can't live off of it. But I think it's because the whole motivation to play GPs and whatever is because it feels so attainable. You only have to...
The problem
I feel like in Dota I see a lot of, because I've just seen I'm close to, they say there's a lot of money at TI, at the big tournaments, and there's nothing for the tier 2 scene kind of.
Well, isn't that actually in every like art profession as well?
Yeah,
that
I
it's
think so.
really hard to make like reliving out of it to the extent we see on popular media, right? And then if you want to get by, that's possible, but very hard work.
Yeah, and I've heard like models, for example, they complain that only once they're really big, then they get all the free designer stuff to model.
But that's
super top heavy.
When they don't need it.
That's what you get fed from all the social media and the commercials. It's like, oh, I want to be like them because they make so much money, while the bias is obviously you see them because they make so much money.
Yeah, no, because to me personally, I think I don't mind there being like some sort of like top heavy MPL thing, like some cool thing at the top to really chase. But I personally really like the structure as it is, because I feel like this is more like if you're at your LGS, you have some sort of clear pathway, because I feel like in the past it was very, very confusing over COVID what you were meant to do. And now it's like, it's clear. Play on my LGS, I go abroad, and then I go to the Pro Tour. I like it.
I think the problem was that they tried to build from the top with the whole MPL thing instead of building from the bottom. And they had this thing at the top, they had this idea for what they wanted at the top, and it made everything like so complicated to feed into it, and they had like not a good system. And I was always like, maybe it was super simplistic and even wrong, but I always felt like, don't focus on like trying to force things. Just give us a system that makes sense, that's good, that's fair, and then good things will happen, you know?
Yeah.
I think they wanted to sell the dream of living Magic as a profession, and that was pretty hard to pull off from the bottom because you need to market the top, right? You need to have the MPL, have them say like, okay, those are the people that have an income that they sustain their lifestyle with. Right now, they're not promising anything, and they don't even like, for example, Worlds, the 128 players. I think we both played, I mean, you obviously, but we both played Worlds when they were much bigger and when they're now much smaller. And 128 is right in between, but it also shows you that they're not caring about the individual storylines at all. They care about the tournament being quite diverse and accessible.
I like that though, because I feel like if WotC focuses on the tournaments, the community can focus on the players. And I think that's how it'll grow.
Yeah.
Also, like one argument that comes back a lot, I think maybe we talked about it on the podcast before, and I think it's correct, is that Magic is not like some of the other games because of the luck factor, you know?
Yeah.
And there's not a huge gap between the very top players and, you know, the best player in the world and the 10th best player in the 100th, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why kind of like the pro model, like top heavy, doesn't make a ton of sense for Magic, and you want it a bit more like spread out, because it's not like when I watch, you know, Dota or whatever, I know I'll never be a Dota professional, even if I play like 7 hours a day or something. Whereas if you're a good Magic player and you put in the time, you can make it, you can become as good, you know, it's realistic.
Yeah.
Your decisions are very distinct from your skills. Like, you have a lot of decisions within a game, but they're very unskilled by being on the top of your range. Like, what I mean is, in Dota, you need to have a lot of dexterity, a lot of reaction time, a lot of like knowledge about all the things. In Magic, you can pretty much start any limited game, no matter how long you played, and win that game because you have like 10 to 100 decisions, like some of them very important, but the most of them just very minor, and then you go from there.
Yeah, also if you like don't play a ton, but you decide that one season you're gonna try hard, focus and stuff, and put in the hours, and you get a little lucky, you can make it to the regional championship, you can make it to the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
If I decide, okay, I'm going to play 16 hours of a Dota a day for 6 months, it's not going to make a difference, you know. I mean, I'm assuming not, you know. And plus the logistics of finding a team, so that's something else.
You can take a break, and then you say, like, okay, for the next tournament, I'm playing like an actual blue-white list now. I'm going to practice for it like a week with 7 hours a day. And then you get into the matchups, get into feeling of the deck, and then you're quite reasonable prepared, right? In Dota, that never happens at all, because you still don't have the mechanics to have all the dexterity. There's like 100 new opponents with the ultimates. Like, I only know League of Legends, but there's no way that you're getting to the level that Magic gives you the thing. And it's also much different from chess, because, I mean, chess are very rules easy. You have few moves at one given time, but you cannot compete with any other player that is much better than you, because you're missing that variance of luck.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, so I think we talked about every level. I think for Worlds, maybe we didn't talk about how you can qualify. I think the first World Championship is going to be, so roughly, what, like...
end of 23, they say.
Yeah, end of 2023.
Yeah.
And who's going to be qualified? 6 from Magic Online, maybe 1 or 2 from Arena, who knows. There's going to be the people who went 12 and 4 better at each of the Pro Tours, so that's maybe 10, 12 people, so that's like 36. Then you're going to have the 32 best players was the AMPs at these Pro Tours that are not previously qualified, and everyone tied was 32nd. So that's kind of where the variance comes from. Is it going to be like 128 or 135 or 125? depending on how many people are tied with 30 seconds. So I feel that it's cool that they thought about that, so that no one feels bad, no weird tiebreaker stories. Kind of lost track, but yeah, if you had all these, you can also qualify directly. We didn't talk about that, but at the regional championship, if you finish first or second or just first, or it depends on the region maybe.
It depends on the region.
I think for Europe, the US and Japan, it's first and second that qualify directly from regional championship to Worlds, and for the 8 other regions, it's just the first of each regional championship.
Yeah. Also, if I understood this correctly now, because we had like issues with multiple tournaments in Europe yesterday when we recorded, so you are allowed to play in any region you want to if you qualified in that region.
Yes, yeah.
But you're not allowed to play in multiples in one season.
No, you're only allowed to play one regional championship per season, but let's say you live on a border and you play one qualifier, and I don't know, example Huey gave was you play one qualifier in Canada, you qualify for the regional championship, you play one qualifier in the US, you also qualify, you have to then pick which one you want to play into. They also said something about if you qualify online, you have to play, if I win a qualifier for the regional championship on Magic Online, I have to play in the regional championship of my residence. So if I live in France and I win, I don't have the choice. It's not like, you get to pick. So that was like, I guess, a couple details. Also, we recorded a video for Cardmarket yesterday where we were kind of confused by these European tournaments, and we're like, is there like 4 different championships and you get to pick one? No, there's 3 other events and there's only one regional championship per region, per Pro Tour.
Yeah. Honestly, what I'm wondering is, because this seems so well thought out, I feel like maybe they're holding back a bit of info. Like, we used to have nationals in the team series. Do you think that, like, I saw a few people mentioning in the Twitch chat, like nationals, for example. Is this something that you would be interested in coming back? Do you think it's reasonable that it will come back?
Interesting, yes.
Nationals was always a lot of people's favorite tournament because you got to see, people you only saw once a year, and it was kind of, big catering and competitive, but also, who knows? Why not? I don't think why there wouldn't be. I mean, it might not feed into anything, but we could still have nationals back, or maybe have. Not sure how it would work, what national would feed into, if it fed into anything.
No, I mean, probably it could be that each national gives like winning slot to a Pro Tour or something. I can see that happen. I don't think there's much hope for any of the team events that we had, the World Magic Cups.
Yeah, you can imagine nationals like winner of each national qualifies for the Pro Tour, and maybe top 4 qualifies for the next regional championship. Something like that.
The way they setting us up feels like the regional championship is like a freebie, so you could always have like an event qualify for that. Like, for example, there's the Cardmarket series, right? And if they team up with the Legacy event organizer, then they could say like, here you get like so many slots for the regionals, And this is the way to communicate your local tournament scene with those organizers and to get help from them because they fund or they support your game store, your tournament and stuff. And then the other way you feed then the regional thing. And the regional is kind of the hub where everybody gets serious.
The catch-all.
And then actually the Pro Tour level is going to be a bit more supreme, like a bit more exclusive to reach. And they're not going to be as lenient as that.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And maybe they're giving themselves room to grow. They're aiming for around 300 players per Pro Tour, but that's for season 1. And maybe if they bring back nationals and they bring back this, and there's more and more events, then maybe they add 1 or 2 slots per regional championships, and maybe the size of the Pro Tour grows to 350, 400 players. The Pro Tour used to be between 300 and the biggest one. Was there like 1 or 2 that were like over 500 at some point? I forget if it was over 400 or over 500.
I mean, probably one of the Italians.
But it's definitely like some Pro Tours that were over 400 players. So I'm guessing they wanted to, not start too big.
The Magic 25, I think, had a lot of players.
Yeah, that was a team one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was I don't know, maybe we saw the same tweet. Ben Sek, his first thought he said was like, how does team events tie into the system? And that's definitely something. I mean, you could speculate or you could come up with ideas.
I'm pretty sure eventually it's going to happen because they've all been the pinnacle of what people want, right? It's like if everybody was like, what's your favorite GP or memory or thing? It's basically just team events because, well, you actually have a reason to go with somebody. Not that you're going with alone most of the time, but the way you prepare before together, your shared incentives are so massive. I mean, everybody goes and has like friends and it's like, did you win or not, or whatever. But in a team, it's like your own fate demands on all of how your people are doing, and it's just so much more community. And I would be very surprised that in the end of the whole journey, like if you tell me now there's never going to be a team event, I would say that's not possible.
Yeah, no, team events are definitely one of my favorites. But I think, what actually is one of the most interesting things as well for me is that they've announced that both Regional Championship and Pro Tour are Pioneer and Draft.
Yeah.
And we mentioned that a little bit, but I think that the general consensus was that the format was, dying and whatever, but now it's just, I think it's easily going to revive it. I'm going to be playing Pioneer on my stream because that's what people are going to be wanting to watch.
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool decision.
Yeah.
You've got Moderns doing well, I mean, everyone could use the help, but Moderns doing well, Standard still, it's kind of more of an arena format right now. And I thought it was great that it chose Pioneer, gave kind of a second life to the format. It was supposed to go on, and it kind of COVID happened. So, I thought it was a really cool decision, and I thought it made a lot of sense.
I think from like the game design point, it's much easier to balance Pioneer and Modern than to balance Standard. And I wouldn't be surprised if Standard actually falls off to a huge margin because right now, like, they realize if we make cards better, we sell more, right?
Yeah.
So how do we make cards better? Well, we make them stronger on many of the different levels. We can turn it all on. But if cards are stronger, playable, like they also should be playable in all the formats because that's what sells. Commander specifically, but also like Legacy and Vintage. If we make cards that are strong there, but they're probably way too strong for Standard, which we realized from Eldraine on that we got this spike of cards which are way too good. But they want to sell, so they kind of reduce the demand on Standard cards being fair by having all of those non-rotating formats be played, and those cards feed into those formats, and then they become stable.
Yeah. So you think that Standard actually is going to become almost an arena-only format?
I wouldn't be surprised if Standard becomes like the one point in the year, which Modern was like back then, right? We had like a lot of Standard, but once per year there was a Modern Pro Tour.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be excited if that actually switches, that you have a lot of Modern, a lot of Pioneer, and then one time is Standard.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's 3 Pro Tours a year, so it makes sense that there's a Modern Pro Tour, a Pioneer Pro Tour, and a Standard Pro Tour, right?
That's fair.
True. We've got 3 formats, 3 Pro Tours.
And then there's back then we had like 3 Standard and 1 Modern or something like this.
Yeah. It was like, exactly.
I'm happy about Pioneer. I think Modern and Pioneer, as you, I think, see on about every metric in the universe of Twitch, YouTube, and whatever, is just the most popular format.
Yeah.
And I think also has the most diverse decks, the most skilled players winning those tournaments, and in the end, you're just very happy to play those.
I'm still reserving judgment on Pioneer. I was not the biggest fan of the format at its inception. I felt like it felt a little like Standard. It was a little boring gameplay-wise. So we'll see. I haven't played Pioneer in a couple of years. It seemed that people who do play Pioneer really enjoy it. And
I think Brussels, which was the last time we played Pioneer, and also the first time we played Pioneer, I think, was very enjoyable, the format, where we had like a lot of Nif Mizzet and Lotus Field and
Inverter.
Mono Black, Inverter, and even though, I mean, it was like some problematic tune, it was just the beginning, I remember Brussels and the format being very enjoyable. Not like most of the Standard things I realized from last 2 years, for example.
Yeah. So,
How much time have we been running for?
50 minutes.
Okay, we got loads of time.
Yeah, the question is now, how do you prepare for those events, right? Like,
listen to Midweek Metagame every week.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to our roots, modern and pioneer.
Do you cover Pioneer regularly so far? Because if not, you're gonna have to.
We did an app a few weeks ago because we had Claudio H on, so we talked about Pioneer, but we don't play Pioneer. We haven't basically ever talked about Pioneer in years. But that's going to change. I'm probably, Harry said he's going to start playing Pioneer. I'm going to start playing Pioneer, obviously. So what we do is we just talk about what we played because we try to bring, our perspective and our input, not just paraphrase deck lists and something we also go through deck lists. But
okay, so at this point, now people know Pioneer is like the format the go-to format people want to prepare and to practice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How, as you both play a lot of tournaments right now and stream and stuff, how are you gonna prepare to find out what is the best deck? How do you gonna choose a deck you start with?
That's actually funny because there's a huge, there's a set of like 6 people on Twitter. They're called Tac Team and they play Pioneer all the time. They've got their own tier list. I think Pioneer is actually really, really well refined, the metagame. And I believe that there are just like 4 or 5 top decks which everyone plays. Obviously there could be some hidden decks or whatever, but I think like generally speaking, Lotus Field, Blue-White Control, Jun Sacrifice,
Red-Black Sacrifice,
sure,
Red-Black Piles,
and there's like a load.
Phoenix.
There's loads of really good decks, and those generally speaking, if you want to get into the format, play those. They're very similar to Standard and Historic. That's one thing that people like, and that's how I'd get into it.
I'm probably just gonna jam some Niv.
Yeah, Niv, Just Guys Fantasy. I mean, probably it's good if you want to play a deck, get your cards now. like small businesses right on the side.
Yeah.
Get them earlier than later because when people realize they have to play it, they want to play it, and people will realize.
Yeah, Pat literally messaged me this morning. He's like, want to grab some extra The Wandering Emperors because I already had one. He had one. He's like, I'll buy a second one. You buy a second one. We're gonna have a play set.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna wait a bit. Well, first of all, we've got New Capena Championship to practice for, even though we don't know the formats yet. That's gonna be on Arena, but I'm gonna have to focus on that in the next few weeks.
Because it's also important for us for qualifying.
Yeah. So Yeah, I saw poor Jim Davis, who was a bit bummed that he did so well in the first tournament, 15-0, was in top 8, and that translated into nothing for him. The only events from this year feeding into next year are the next championship, New Capena on Arena. Everyone who goes 9-7 or better. So Jim is qualified for that, and 9-7, it's pretty achievable for a player like him, so hopefully he gets there. But if you go 9-7 or better, you'll be qualified for the first Pro Tour of next year, and also everyone who qualifies for the World Championship will be qualified for the first Pro Tour.
And there's some Challenger stuff also? Like the Challengers, I think that didn't make Worlds.
I wonder if Challenger is not just for the regional championships.
Maybe, okay.
I forget the details.
But yeah,
9-6. I said 9-7. It's only 15
because it's 15 rounds. Yeah. So after, to be fair, now somewhat relevant for us, but majorly irrelevant for everybody who watches. After that period is done, which is end of May.
Yeah.
And then in June, July starts everything going up with those.
Someone was asking in chat if the pros knew beforehand because they said the professor had a video ready to go. I hope I can say that. I think I can say that. There was a meeting 2 days before, so on the 29th. I actually was invited, but I didn't attend because I was here doing other stuff, and I just asked Reed to give me the TLDR. So I knew a couple days in advance the Pro Tour was coming back. I believe it was, probably some pro players and some big influencers so that they could have these videos ready. I don't think stores...
at least the tournament organizers did.
Yeah.
Not the stores.
They might have been in touch with the big orgs, obviously, to prepare all that. But they probably knew way before that.
Yeah.
But as far as influencers and players, we knew 2 days before. Apparently there was some rumors though, because I saw some people say, "Oh, I've heard rumors, and it's pretty good." So there was very minor leaks, I guess. But
if you're talking, that's why I never understand why aren't there more leaks, because usually you talk to those things to thousands of people.
Maybe people are pretty good. Maybe this time around people are pretty good about it. Yeah, it's good. I think the Magic community is there's leaks at all. It's unavoidable, but I feel
it only takes one weak person that wants to show how cool they are and what they know.
Yeah, that's a good point. That there was really not no leaks about it.
Yeah, whenever there's something.
If you had to guess how many people in these, for DreamHack, for Legacy, for Face to Face, how many people have to know to start organizing?
A few hundreds
stuff?
at least, I would say.
No, but per org.
Oh,
like
team of 10.
5, 10,
yeah. 10, you think?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they don't want to lose their job. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, but it's pretty hard.
I agree. You're like, we'll do it. Like, okay, I'll tell you, but don't tell anyone else.
Yeah, but this is the chain. So here's the thing: what happened in COVID, right? It's like when people, because we got a lot of Commander orders, and like I talked to some of the players, like, how are you playing Commander in all those COVID times? It's like, no, we just play in our close group, and we all play on those on Tuesdays. And then it was like, yeah, but on Tuesday I have this group, but only I play on Wednesday in the other group, which is also very closed. Like, only those. And then it realized it's like this thing. It's like everybody assumes they're like only doing the special thing for some other, but then they all do it in a circle. So it's kind of
So in that case, what was the stuff that leaked? Why were people all of a sudden?
No, but if somebody says like, here I show you the screenshot or the proto spec, but don't tell anybody. And the next person goes like, okay, I'm telling you, just don't tell anybody. And then eventually it's like 1,000 people of having don't tell anybody, and then somebody who's like, well, I'm telling somebody. I'm telling Reddit.
Yeah, I understand.
I didn't. I mean, I'm maybe not as in touch as other people, but I didn't know anything about. I was kind of, after what they announced a couple of years ago, I was kind of optimistic and that they would actually have something decent. And
I mean, the only thing that was optimistic was Huey at all.
Yeah, I think Huey did an amazing job.
Yeah, and he gave a lot of credit to his team. It's not only him. As he said, when he started working at Wizards, it was already well in the works. And obviously he's been getting a lot of praise because he's the face and, most people love him. But
Wizards also got a lot of shit before the other thing before.
Yeah. But I mean, we can only really thank Huey because that's all they've really given us on the team, right? So.
No, I mean, no, you should obviously thank everybody behind that.
Yeah.
I know. I remember thinking a couple of years ago when they announced the end of the MPL and stuff. I was a bit bummed, but I also think it could be, a good thing in the long run, and the whole like robust tournament system, more open to more people, and I felt like that made more sense for Magic. The whole like kind of semi-professional level of play rather than top-heavy professional. I felt like that was more adapted to a game like Magic, given how much money Wizards was willing to put in the system.
I think we have to wrap up soon just because of studio reasons. So, is there any last things that you guys want to talk about?
No, I mean, I'm happy with the announcement. I'm kind of like, I was wondering what was going to happen if the announcement was really lackluster. Was I going to keep streaming? Probably, but maybe things had to change. And now I feel like, I'm just right back in it, going to get back on the grind. But I feel like for the first time in my life, I'm actually going to have to, it's going to be tough maybe to qualify. And I'm kind of going to be, not quite at the same level as everyone else because I still get that one shot a year. But yeah, feels like.
How hard was it like in Mirrodin times to qualify for a Pro
I don't know. I literally qualified for my Pro Tours as soon as I really tried to go. Because I used to play PTQs, but I thought my mom wouldn't let me go to the PT. So I would play PTQs but not really try. And the first time I tried, we just won, I don't know if you ever heard that story, but the first time I qualified for a Pro Tour, I was playing PTQ because it was in Paris. It was during European Championship. And usually what I would do is I would play, and eventually I would play against someone I know, and I would scoop to them, and, just play for fun and to help out my friends. And then this tournament, since it was at the European Championship, I just kept playing, foreigners. And I got to the semifinals, and I was like, well, I called home. I was like, my brother picked up, and I was like, dude, if I win this next match, I'm qualified for a tournament in Chicago. Can you help me convince mom to let me go? And he's like, yeah, sure, just win your match, and don't worry. So that's how I qualified for my first Pro Tour. And then when I tried again for teams, I won literally my first team PTQ. So and then I was on the train, so I never knew the struggle of really the PTQ grind. So literally for the first time in my life, I might have, be out there grinding and maybe failing and not qualifying for the Pro Tour. So
is it exciting?
Exciting. That's more anxious than exciting, but.
So that's your path for next year, I guess. Toffel, what's your path?
Yeah, I think what you can see is like all the energy that people get now from mostly my timeline is people that play Magic, a revive of playing again, right? But I'm also looking to all the people that now wanted to play a lot of Magic. I remember I wanted to say something. That wanted to play a lot of Magic, but couldn't because there was the MPL stuff and all this stuff. So everybody now who's like 17, 18 something is getting like a real shot of having those real life tournaments and real life expectations of playing professional or professional tournament Magic. If I understood this correctly, and this is a change, people are allowed to play from the age of 13.
Oh, cool.
That's what I read.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of issues from people not being able to qualify because they weren't cool 18. Too. And I'm so happy also I'm very sad that people that are 13 are way better than me now, but but I'm very happy that people who are clearly insanely good, and I'm talking to some of the Twitter people, they know who they are. And they were qualifying and couldn't play, which is insane. And then now they're actually able to follow all of this and show how good they are.
Yeah, that's really cool.
One thing I will say, and I kind of mentioned it talking about my case, but the system is good and fair, but it's still going to be really hard to qualify for the Pro Tours. Only 300 people, only 3 Pro Tours a year. So that's not a ton. And
you get a few shots.
Maybe past the obviously everyone's excited and the announcement is good and a lot of positivity, but it's going to be a lot of also like tough breaks for people who are going to near miss it and stuff.
But that's what makes it.
I feel
also
like
good.
but I feel like just expectations should not be even. I don't have like I shouldn't have like necessarily super high expectations. But it is at least it's like more it's good system, fair, open to everyone. Lots of ways to qualify online or live.
This is the typical disclaimer of don't let it be your life, right?
Ooh.
You can be the people and the passion be it, but don't like drop out in school, for example. But don't neglect your surrounding or yourself for trying to really play those Pro Tours.
Yeah,
it's funny you say that because I was literally about to say I think in my first time in my life will dedicate time to try and get onto the PT because now I'm graduating soon. And
I think that's mine.
I'm graduating soon, literally in May 25th. I'm going back to full-time streaming. They've just announced the PT. So that's something that I'm literally going to probably make an effort to go to a regional championship, at least.
Yeah.
And then...
But, where I come from, this is very reasonable. I myself, and I've also known a lot of people who didn't go to school for days because they played Magic and didn't start studying or studied and were kind of like fake studiers and all this stuff. So Magic has this thing to eat you. In a very good part, but also sometimes in a bit bad part.
No, I won't let it consume my life. I will be studying Mandarin Chinese on the side, but for anyone listening, I think on the podcast I've kind of said for the past like 6 months, I'm like, I don't really do anything anymore. Just whatever. So it's like it's literally going 0 to 100.
No, you're doing fine.
I've got big YouTube plans, big Twitch plans. Now there's the PT and stuff. I'll have money to travel. I'll try. Are you? I know, Gab, you didn't play GPs. Are you planning to go to the LMSs, the showdowns?
Well, there's one in Paris.
I'll probably go to the Paris one. But I probably won't go to the other ones. I doubt it. I'll see. But
right.
I always love Bologna as GP location. I would be very surprised if I don't end up going there just for fun.
Oh,
but
nice.
I might play more local games too. I might play these qualifiers. I'll probably play some online, but I might also.
Well, you play some in a year.
That's the only thing I'm worried about is buying the paper decks, but luckily there is the shopping wizard on Cardmarket, so I can get the decks for cheap.
The plugs.
As well as the fact of that I'm friends with Toffel, Karma Crow, I can buy my deck from him as well, so shout out to those two. But anything else? Or should we start?
I felt like since we didn't talk about Modern, we could maybe at least put our life on the line in Modern, because we actually played a bit of Modern. I played a bit of 4-color in the challenge. I did well. I timed out around again, but I still feel the deck is great. Played a bit of that mono black Coffers in paper the other day.
That played good, that deck.
Yeah, it's better than it looks. I feel like it's not not tier 1, but the Coffers deck is pretty sweet. And Harry, we both played a bit of the black green deck that Musasabi won the the showcase was, or the Super Qualifier was a couple of weeks ago. I feel like that deck's, it's pretty well-rounded, pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Feels a little too fair sometimes, but also does some powerful stuff.
Yeah. Do you know what Life on the Line is?
No.
So at the end of every episode, we do a game show called Life on the Line, and it's a theoretical tournament tomorrow. If you win the event, you live, but if you lose, you die, and you got to bring a deck.
Is Tron a deck now?
Is Tron? I mean, I
never play Modern.
Yeah.
You don't have to answer if you never play Modern.
Yeah, true.
I mean, exclaimer, do I really die? Because otherwise I don't mind playing.
Hence the theoretical part.
Yeah.
I was just making sure if Tron is a reasonable choice.
Sure. In Modern, you get more rewarded for playing a deck than a deck that's good, I would say. But I think that Life on the Line, I actually think that Musasabi's black-green thing is really good. Black-green mid-range, black-green saga, whatever you like to call it. I played it in a Cardmarket tournament that was organized, as well as a Cardmarket video. I really like it, like I was saying. But one thing I think that is underrated about the deck is how well it grinds, as well as the fact that you can play Liliana the Veil in the format now because Lurrus is banned, and Liliana is a lot better than I thought it would be. The deck discards really well. You don't need a lot of lands. The discard as well from Liliana really helps with Elvish Reclaimer. That pumps up the graveyard, as well as there's the new Witherbloom command. The black-green sorcery. It kills Ragavan, it kills Sigardazade, Ren and 6, loads of stuff in the format. Get 2-for-1s a lot, like kill your Ragavan, get back Urza Saga from my graveyard, kill your Ren, get Saga back. It's really good. Yeah. So I think if you have the resources to try out the deck, I really like it, and I think it's really good. So I'll go for that in Life on the Line.
What did you, Toffel?
I'll go for Hammer.
Hammer time?
Yeah.
Solid.
I think you can't go wrong. Like, the worst case is you can't go really wrong, but you can go really right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
That makes sense. What about you, Gab?
I'm still a 4-color believer. I'm not sure I'm totally up to date if I should be playing Alademri's color or not, but yeah, that deck, I feel like if I can stop timing out, 1 in 10, 7 matches, the deck's it's so good when I play well and fast enough, and I do really well with it. At
some point I tuned into the stream and you had like 1 minute and you were stone chilled of clicking one button per like 5 seconds.
Oh, sometimes you have 1 minute and it's going to be more than enough, and sometimes you have 5 and you're kind of screwed.
Okay, well, before we end as well, we do another game show. We do double down.
Oh, yeah, we have to do Price is Right.
Yeah, Price is Right. Yeah, because we're...
Tama's going to crush us, though.
Yeah, true.
Well,
it's literally his job to
slides where the thing didn't came out yet. Like, we produced like a special...
okay, don't spoil that. Don't spoil
No, don't spoil it, but that is like much more fun of those.
Yeah. So... in inspiration of the Price is Right, Cardmarket hosted an actual Price is Right game show with us three, which was really fun.
1 hour episode.
Yeah. But what is it? We should do a Price is Right of our own. So,
so
do you want to pick a modern card or something?
Let's not. You pick a card, Harry.
Any card?
You know what I want to pick? I want to pick Lotus Field. Because I feel like that's a card that I have no clue what the price would be.
Now?
You have to guess the price, and whoever gets closest wins.
Just closest. Going over doesn't matter.
We take the 7-week average on Cardmarket.
Of Lotus Field.
Lotus Field. Is that what it's called? It is called that, right?
The land.
Okay. I have a price in my head.
All right, I have a price in my head too.
You got one?
Okay.
Okay, well, on the count of 3, we'll all say it together.
Yes.
So 3, 2, 1, 4 euros.
7 euros.
7, 3, 14, and 4. Our producer, could you check the price?
Trying.
Thank you.
Which edition do you want?
Just the normal one.
Whatever it says on average price, I think.
M20. No, edition.
Do you need
M20.
to pick an edition?
Yeah.
Set.
Yeah, which set?
M20.
Yeah.
It is. You want the 7-week average,
Yeah.
7 average. 277.
Ay.
I way overshot it as usual.
Okay, 277 for Lotus Field on Cardmarket. If you'd like to buy Lotus Field for your new tournaments, because that's supposedly the best
buy
deck.
Them now. It's one of the best decks in Pioneer.
Yep. And I guess to finish off the episode, Toff, any social media like to shout out or anything?
Or just shout out your store again.
You can buy a Karma Crow on Cardmarket.
Okay, so it's Karma Crow. How do you spell it? Because you guys, I feel like...
Karmacrow. Karma Crow. Like Karma and Crow.
Oh, Karma Crow. I would have never guessed
we have almost every card in stock, and we actually fuel all the Cardmarket series, like those duels with all the cards, like all the cards came from us. Yeah, I wanted to say something, and I forgot. You plugged me with the thing.
Oh, sorry. Well, we'll shout out our socials if you have anything.
Oh, yeah, the socials, right.
Yeah.
If you want to follow somebody who never posts on Twitter, you can do that. Because whenever I'm with people, like Andrea is the most prominent one, but people follow me for no reason because I never post anything. But you can do that there, and then you see sometimes when those Cardmarket things happen, I retweet.
Okay, cool. And what is the @? Do you know?
At TOEFL MTG.
At TOEFL MTG, yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes.
What about you, Harry?
You can find me anywhere on the internet at HarryMTG from May 25th, as well as obviously I've flown out here to the Cardmarket studio, so I think there's probably gonna be 8 videos coming out while my university degree is finishing, which is gonna be 6. So loads of content coming there. So Cardmarket's YouTube channel for that, HarryMTG for anything else. And what about you, Gab?
Yeah, you can find me learning from Harry MTG's YouTube page. Maybe I'll get back in the mix,
Oh,
freshly motivated from the
Get the
open
game on,
announcements.
Yeah.
But yeah, if not, twitch.tv/yellowhat on YouTube, and at GavinAsif on Twitter.
Sweet, awesome. I guess, thank you again so much, Stoffel, for joining us today. Very, very insightful. And thank you guys so much for listening if you made it far into this episode. I think that's about it, and I guess we'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, thank you so much for listening, everyone, and take care.
Bye.